All right, people were asking for some updates on the machines. I want to give you a quick update on what I've been up to this week. Okay, so this is the 2021 Renegade XMR 1000R. Nothing to see here except it did experience a failure this weekend. I put the Talon stock tires and wheels on there, a much lighter, lower traction setup for hauling ass and doing stuff like that. And boy, did I haul some ass. And it did really well, except for that the shock fell apart. See how I noticed that spring wasn't centered over there? If you look at the bottom of it, see how that looks? This is how it should look. So this keeper failed because I am too hardcore. Somehow that also resulted in the top of the shock looking like this, with all the powder coat chipping off the spring. So I'm probably gonna fix it for now, but I'm gonna complain to the dealership about it and get that replaced because it might have damaged the shock. So they better give me a new shock with my nice fancy warranty. Anyways, so I'll probably wait till something else goes wrong and bring it in for the multiple issues, because I don't like dealing with dealerships more than I have to. But other than that failure, which is very annoying on a brand new machine, totally unjustified. Yes, I was riding it hard, however, that's pathetic. That was assembled wrong. That keeper wasn't in there right. Anyway, so this thing did really, really well. People say, hey, it's a Can-Am, you gotta ride it like a Can-Am. I always thought they were idiots. 100% true. It's a big, heavy machine with stiff suspension. You gotta ride it hard and you gotta ride it fast, otherwise it doesn't work right. Low speed, you just kind of maybe slide around a little bit, not the way to do it. You gotta use the power this bike has, and the suspension and the power work well together. You gotta use the power to make the suspension work. I say again. I was able to ride it hard, and it soaks up some big whoops and potholes and like stuff that you wouldn't expect a four-wheeler to be able to soak up coming from things like this and Rubicons, and it just eats it up. But if you're going slow, it'll just buck you over the handlebars. You really got to ride it hard. And I probably never would have done it if I didn't put on these stupid bald-ass tires and go haul butt with it. So now that I've kind of gotten used to it on these tires, I'm going to put the stock 30 Cryptids back on, which are taller and more aggressive and stuff, and see if I can ride it hard with those. I think I can. Probably not with those tires, it's just too tall. But that's annoying. Did not test the diff lock at all last weekend. I went through some water with these tires, but they didn't really have enough pressure hookup to really go through any real mud or do water wheelies or anything like that. I just wanted to see how it would handle on these tires. And it did pretty well, went everywhere, got stuck once, but so far so good. Airbox is sealed, I checked that. The gasket I replaced on the airbox lid's working good. I did hit the roll bar a few times, as you can see, or the wheelie bar, and that's because these tires were spinning a lot, and then they'd randomly hook up, and this thing's got the power to snap you back and throw you off the back in sport mode. It actually did throw someone off the back. It wasn't me. Not gonna name any names. Okay, Big Red. This is my older Big Red that I've had forever. I just put some new wheels on it, some ITP Steelies. Steelies would look good on three-wheeler, and I put some new tires. These are Gladiator MTs. I got these tires on eBay. They're 27 by 11 by 14. Got them shipped to my house, the pair of them, for 120 bucks. Can't get a tire cheaper than that. It's got pretty good tread. They were stiff and kind of hard to mount. They didn't bead till 40 PSI, or maybe 50 PSI, which is scary because I think they've been sitting in a stockroom for a long time. But I like them because a 14-inch wheel with a 27-inch tire is not going to float too bad. And the problem with the three-wheelers are they float, they get unstable, you can't control them. So hopefully that'll be a good setup. On the front, I've got a mud bug and a hyper double bead lock because I'm hilarious. So that setup's pretty good. I also went through and redid the vent lines. There's really only two vent lines you got to worry about: gas tank and carburetor. So the vent lines are good. The rear diff's greased. You may have noticed, if you're a man of science like myself, that is a 300 rear differential, because this differential was robbed to put on my other 300. And I put the 300 differential here, I swapped them. That's also a 300 swing arm, which is why a 27-inch tire looks perfectly centered in the fender well, because it's got a 2-inch stretch built into it using a 300 drive shaft. This three-wheeler is getting a new tank, it's getting some new air filter, it's getting a new ignition switch, it's getting a new handlebar switch, and I'm going to clean it up real good, obviously, and I'm putting the tires and wheels that were on this on here. That was motivation for getting a new set of tires and wheels. And this is going to be the yard three-wheeler. This is a very temporary setup. I've got a new battery coming for it, and this thing's going to be real cleaned up and very minty. 300, haven't done anything with it. I did drive it across the pond yesterday for shits and giggles. It still floats, go figure. And the Talon, that's what everyone wants to know about. The Talon is on the 33-inch Aztecs and the 18s. At 0 PSI, they clear. At 3 PSI, they clear. At 6 PSI that I want to run them at, you can see the tire rubs right here at full lock just a little bit. The reason I'm getting away with this, you cannot usually run 33s on a Talon X, is because I have very negative offset wheels. So the tire turns, right? The tire turns, it doesn't swing. All you idiots with your wide offset wheels on your trucks and stuff, you think you're cute, you're moronic. You're destroying the suspension and your ball joints and your bearings, and the tire, instead of turning, is swinging. Wide offset makes the tire swing, which makes it more torture on your steering system. It swings into the fenders, and it's just dumb. Yes, I could crank up the preload and do some things like that to get it to rub less. However, that's something you do if you're the type of person who would squat a truck, right? Your tires should clear the bodywork at all the range of the suspension travel. You should not have to adjust the preload to clear tires. I've done it before on some Hondas and stuff like that that don't have much travel. On a machine like this, that's a terrible idea. I've got it set soft. It is pretty sagged and low, but on the 33s, it's still got really good ground clearance, and it's very flexy, tons of traction. The rear, you want to run a 1 1/4 rear wheel spacer, you can see there. And you want to make sure it's got 12mm studs, and you want to make sure that those studs are 12 by 1.5 thread pitch. They sent me 1.25. They were marketed wrong. I'm going to yell at ATV Engineering about that. I think that's where I got these from. And luckily I had enough lug nuts to make it work, even though they sent me the wrong stuff. I have all the special lugs. That's why there's black lugs in the rear and silver lugs in the front. So this is going to go to hole-a-pole like that tomorrow. That should be pretty good. Probably just going to ride the Talon tomorrow, and I'll bring this in the bed of the Jeep as a backup because my buddies are borrowing my big trailer. Speaking of Jeeps, let me give you a quick rundown on how this thing's been doing. So I've had it for, I don't know, 3-4 weeks now. Been towing with it, driving it to work, whatever. Only complaint is the wind noise. Everything else about it's excellent. Getting 18, 19 miles per gallon. It's fun, it's capable, hasn't got stuck yet, by the way. It does donuts really well with the limited slip that it's got in the back, because it's the max tow package, so you can see the donut action right here. Oh yes. Some people, and by people I mean geniuses, on the interwebs and the Facebook page are really concerned that I bought a Gladiator. Like, oh, your frame's gonna bend, because I saw one picture of one truck that bent. So let me tell you guys how that works. So this is one of the best-selling vehicles in the past 2 years, and that's because it's awesome. So they have sold over 120,000 of these, and that's not including 2021 sales, which has been going on for quite a while now. And if there was a systemic frame bending problem, we'd know about it. There's enough of them out there on 37s, on 40s, doing some pretty hardcore off-roading. There's nothing wrong with the frames. The one picture you guys saw that you're all thinking, oh, I'm an expert, I saw one picture on this. Oh yeah, I did all the research. Oh yeah, guess what? I guarantee I do more research than buying when I buy something, any of you, all you combined probably. So they put a shock that was too long on the Gladiator, and what that did was it defeated the bump stop. So the bump stop's designed to handle the suspension bottoming, right? So you got a reinforced plate there. This sits directly under the frame rail, tied into this bracket, which is reinforced all the way around by several other brackets all welded in. That is designed to handle the bottoming force of the axle, especially with a trailer on it. This little bracket welded up to the side of the frame here is just to add dampening. It's not supposed to support the weight of the truck. It's just to add dampening with a stock type shock. Someone put a longer shock on here to get more travel, because the only way you can get more travel out of a shock is to have its compressed length longer, right? A shock cannot have more travel than its compressed length. The piston has to travel within the constraints of the top of the shock. So someone, some genius, put a longer aftermarket shock and didn't drop their bump stop. They started bottoming out on the shock, which bent this bracket out, which buckled the frame here, and eventually the frame did bend, okay? Not Jeep's fault. Someone put too long of a shock and turned their bump stop, you know, change their bump stop location. Not only is it terrible for the shock, it'll bend the frame. It happens on a lot of different trucks, and people are idiots and set up their own suspension. Also overlanding, you know, if you're in a situation where your truck rear suspension's on the bump stop at the same time your trailer rocks forward, if you don't have a good foam bump stop, you can bend the frame just because of that. That foam bump stop is a little bit of give. That lets that absorbs that last amount of shock, and the frame bends a little bit sometimes and it bends back. But if you get rid of the foam bump stop and you put a compressed shock absorber there, which is pretty much a solid beam, yes, you're gonna bend stuff. So I know you geniuses think, oh, I saw a bent frame, they're terrible. Well, you can Google it, and the vehicle that has the most bent frames is the Ford Raptor, because Fords are freaking pathetic. That's all I got to say for now.